I'm Robin. I'm a certified financial planner, certified private wealth advisor, wealth manager by trade, and your rich auntie. Today, I'm back at it. I'm back on the FIRE movement. This is part 2 of a 2-part series on the FIRE movement. And just to bring everyone up to speed, FIRE is financially independent, retire early. Part 1 of the video covered the basic tenets of the FIRE movement, but I got an excellent question from a viewer who asked about some of the traits of people who are good adherents to the FIRE movement, what those traits are, and what can compensate for those traits in case you don't personally have those traits yourself. So I decided to do the second part and talk about ways that you can compensate for some of those traits if you don't possess those important traits yourself. Let's go ahead and get into it. Stay with me. First is conscientiousness. One thing I've noticed as a financial advisor for my clients who are adherents of the FIRE movement and who do well with the FIRE movement is that they are very conscientious people, meaning if they say they're going to do something, consider it done. Personally, I think the FIRE movement really hasn't caught on with a lot of Americans because a lot of Americans are just lacking in this trait. We all exist on a spectrum of personalities. Some people are not conscientious at all. Some people are very conscientious. And for people who tend to be very conscientious, life is just a little bit easier for them in taking on hard tasks. They can motivate themselves to do very hard things like eating right, exercising, hard financial tasks, hard career tasks, simply because they can rally their resources a bit more to focus on those tasks long term. Now, we're all born into this world with different abilities, but if you don't find that you are a conscientious person, how can you nail this part of the FIRE equation? Is by automating everything. First things first, you're going to automate your payments into your 401k at your job, at least up to the match. Go in right after watching this video if you haven't done it. If your company matches 6%, you're going to start off at 6%. If your company matches 10%, you're going to start off at 10% if you can. But that's an easy win and an easy 100% return from your company, and a very easy way to start automating the FIRE process for yourself. If you already contribute to your 401k, or if you're one of the lucky Americans that actually maxes out their 401k, and 11% of Americans each year max out their 401k, then it may be time to look into opening an individual brokerage account at like an E-Trade or a Schwab or a Fidelity and setting up automatic investments to coincide with your paychecks. So if you get paid every 2 weeks, then it means every 2 weeks you have a certain amount of money. Let's say you start off with $100 or $500 come out of your paycheck, goes over to Fidelity, Schwab, or E-Trade, and is automatically invested in an exchange traded fund or other asset class. Once again, this is set up automatically. You're not doing anything. It just takes a few hours to get things going, but it can really help for people who are not so conscientious and really don't want to follow this process extremely closely. So if you're looking to get started with the FIRE movement and you find that you have some deficits in the area of conscientiousness, figure out how to automate the process. Set up a few hours one Saturday or Sunday to automate this process, open all accounts. And just remember, when you are opening accounts, make sure that you set contact people and beneficiaries on all this account and get started. So this is part B of conscientiousness, what to do when you get raises. A lot of people, especially in this day and age of inflation, when people get raises, it's already spent because we've recently undergone a pretty serious round of inflation here in the United States. Things have gotten a lot more expensive. And so when they finally do get that promotion, when they finally do get that raise, they find that a lot of that money is already gone. But that is an opportunity to really turbocharge your FIRE plans, your financially independent background in building out your own FIRE movement. So let's say you're very fortunate, you've worked for a company for a few years, you're getting a promotion and a raise of 20%. And I would say take half of that, 10%, and use it to max out your 401k. If you have already maxed out your 401k, maybe this money can end up in your brokerage account. The other 10% can be used to absorb some of the increase over the cost of living that we've experienced over the past 2 years. Second piece of advice, stop consuming get rich quick content. Of all the people I know who do fire or are self-made millionaires, one thing that they have in common is that they don't really consume social media content around wealth. They do consume content, but it's typically content found in books, or it's typically long form content. Now, I'm on social media myself, so I'm one to talk, but I do watch social media to keep on top of trends. And a lot of the rapid fire YouTube shorts, TikTok videos are often misleading, don't provide enough context, and often create this sense of missing out on something important. I've seen more 20-year-olds dancing on top of Lamborghinis. I've seen more 19-year-old multimillionaires. I don't believe any of it. But these people are sending a very misguided signal to a lot of Americans, a lot of people across the world, that you will be a millionaire quick, easy, and before the age of 30. The reality is, in the United States, 1% of millionaires become millionaires self-made before the age of 30. Everyone else typically do it in their 40s or even in their 50s. So a lot of information that we're seeing on social media is misleading, especially for something that requires a tremendous amount of discipline like the fire movement. It can end up leading a lot of people astray and making you feel like you are missing out on something important in life. And so for people who want to do the fire movement, but maybe have trouble with the discipline, you really have to shut down these avenues of mis and disinformation that's being fed to you. And often social media, and especially social media shorts, will feed you misinformation about how wealth is built, the timeline that wealth is built on, and what you need to do to become wealthy. So shut down that avenue, get that out of your mind. It's not going to be a quick process. You're not going to be a millionaire before the age of 30, and leave that content in the past. Well-paid professions. Be honest with yourself. What are the odds in the next 3 to 5 years that you will cross six figures, that you will cross $100,000? If you've thought about it, and if you know you will not cross six figures in the next 3 to 5 years simply because of the profession that you are in, it may be time to really look at the long-term viability of that profession. Like I said, most adherents of the fire movement typically have fairly high incomes, meaning at least six figures, sometimes considerably more. If you're not earning enough and you're just scraping by, it is really, really hard to have excess left over at the end of each month or the end of each paycheck to invest. If you've had a really honest conversation with yourself and said, I'm in a profession where I will either never earn six figures or I'm not going to earn six figures in a timely manner, it may be time to look at changing professions. And that's a really difficult thing for a person to swallow. There are a lot of caveats with that. Changing professions in your 40s or 50s is different than changing professions in your 20s or 30s. But I think people need to have more of a realistic conversation with themselves at various points in their career, asking, where are they going? Why are they on this path? And is this pathway likely to lead them to a financially successful future? If you determine there is just no way you're going to be earning six figures in your current role, is there a way in your current profession that you can get into a position that will earn you six figures? Maybe you need to move into the executive director circle. Maybe you need to gain a new skill. Maybe you need more advanced education and training. Whatever you need to stay in your current profession, if you are satisfied in your current profession, can you get it in your current company? Do they provide educational training or additional skills training? Will they promote you to the executive director position? There needs to be a clear pathway to get you into a higher earning position and to move up from there. Most adherents of the fire movement are earning in the six figures, and you need to earn more because you can only cut so much out of your lifestyle to be able to achieve your fire goals. Modest lifestyle. So I talked about adherents of the fire movement really making a commitment to a modest lifestyle. And there is a wide range of things that you can do, from the relatively easy to the very difficult things, to create a modest lifestyle for yourself. First things first, easy low-hanging fruit are things like subscriptions. We all get caught in these subscription loops. I found out that I was double paying YouTube for YouTube Premium for 3 years. They got me. And it was only after I sat down with my credit card bills in about 4 hours of time was I able to detect that and cancel that double subscription and several other subscriptions I wasn't using. I saved about $100 a month for 4 hours of work on one Saturday evening. There's things like cars. Do you really need a car? Some people need cars, some people don't. It's a big debate here in San Francisco. I have friends who have cars here in San Francisco, and every time they use the car, they have to bring a battery jump because they don't drive the car so much that the battery goes dead. In cases like that, you really need to assess whether you need this car. If you don't need the car, it really could save you a lot of money, even if the car is paid off, because there's still insurance, maintenance, and the big one, if you live in a major city, is parking. Parking in San Francisco is outrageous. If you're renting an apartment in San Francisco, parking can go for anywhere from $400 to $500 a month. If you are not using that car and it is a brick, please consider selling that car and freeing up that money, and that's money that you can use towards financial independence. Now, on the more difficult end of the scale, is finding a cheaper living arrangement or a cheaper apartment. For example, a lot of people here in the Bay Area work remotely and may only come into the city 1 day or 2 days a week. If that is the case, you can live further out. Can you live further out from a major urban area and just drive in or just commute in for that 1 to 2 days a week? It doesn't have to be a forever thing. Maybe you can do it for 2 years and just commit to it for a period of time while you get your start in creating financial independence. But I know this is a very hard decision for some people because their friends, family, and social life may be in a large urban area. And the convenience of living close to friends and family, leaving that behind is just a little much. If you can't move to a cheaper location, maybe you just signed a lease and you're in it for the next 2 years, or you have a sick relative nearby who you need to take care of, look at canceling out subscriptions and really evaluate your need for a car. For some people, I have clients who have two cars, a husband and wife, and they fully admit they really only need one car because they're both working remotely and they only go into the office 1 day a week. They can share a car. And I've had people save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars by getting rid of one of those cars and just becoming a one-car family. Once again, it doesn't have to be a permanent solution. They could do it for 3 years while they get on top of debt, while they start the FIRE movement. It will put them in an infinitely better financial position to live without that second car for 2 or 3 years while they're making moves towards financial independence. A lot of adherents of the FIRE movement are married or in long-term relationships. I'm not encouraging anybody to go out and get married in order to save money, but there is something about the power of two in working towards financial goals. Now, I have a client who's a really smart individual and an adherent of the FIRE movement, and what this individual did was really quite clever. They had a long-term friend. It wasn't someone they had a relationship with. It was someone they went to school with who was also an adherent of the FIRE movement, who they had known for several years. And they made a formal agreement that they were going to work together for 3 years to save money. So what does that mean? That means they found an apartment together that was affordable and they split the rent. And they decided they each had a car. One person had this really expensive car, and one person had this older car that was paid off a long time ago. They decided that the friend with the more expensive car would just sell the more expensive car. They would have one car, they would use it intermittently, split the parking, split the maintenance, split the fuel, and they would just live with that one car. Now, they agreed to do it for 3 years, and they had to work out an agreement of what to do. Like if the second friend found a great job in New York City and needed to move clear across the country, or the first friend found a girlfriend and wanted to move in and needed to break the lease early. They need to work out those contingencies. And I strongly suggest that they put a lot of these agreements on paper and sign and notarize them. But basically, they were able to do this agreement for 3 years, and each of them was able to save quite a bit of money. But they were able to work together. They were able to work towards a common goal. and support each other. Now, that could work in lieu of getting married or in lieu of being in a long-term relationship. But the caveat with that is that you have to know, like, and trust the person really well. And you have to have another person that's really committed working towards a long-term goal with you. Finally, lowering your cost of living. Now, I live here in California, and I've lived here in California for many, many years, and I absolutely love it. I pay a very, very high premium for living here in California. California has one of the highest state tax in the nation. I pay several $1,000s a month in state tax to California for the privilege of living here in California, and I am well aware of that. I do have colleagues and I do have clients who live across the state border in Nevada. Now, Nevada, because it has gambling and tourism as its main revenue source, does not have a state tax. So their paycheck instantly goes up because they are no longer paying state tax to the state of California for state income tax. Now, this is a really, really tough decision. I must admit, at one point, I did look at moving to Nevada myself. But moving to Nevada is very difficult. My friend circles are here, my social circles are here, my network is here, my professional network is here, and I just love the weather here in San Francisco. To pick up and to move to Las Vegas or Reno would be a huge stretch for me. But if you're not tied to a particular area or a particular city, you may want to look at how much you are paying in state and local taxes for that experience of living in that state or living in that city. If you're not too terribly tied to the area, how would you feel about moving to a lower cost of living area and a state with much lower income tax? You could save thousands each and every month by simply moving across a border. Doesn't have to be forever. It could be for 2 to 3 years, and then you can come back to wherever you really want. But that could be a fantastic way of getting a leap start on financial independence. So there you have it. Some ideas for how to make up for some of those key core characteristics that you may not possess, but you can create systems and put things in place that can make up for those deficits that can get you started on the financial independence movement. So tell me what you think. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. And if you found this information useful, please like, share, and subscribe.